Hey everyone, Jamie Schwartz here at Skurnik HQ. I have the good pleasure of sitting with my friend Pete Stolpman from Stolpman Vineyards. We're sitting here with a bottle of the 2023 La Cuadrilla. It's a red blend from Pete and his family. It's a really important part of the Stolpman lineup. And with that, I think I'm just going to kick it to Pete to sort of walk us through this wine, what's so special about it, and how it relates to the whole story of Stolpman Vineyards.
Yeah, if we have to pick one wine that we're gonna drink today together, it's this wine. It's the most important wine we make. Today we're certified organic, biodynamic. We're taking care of our land. But from day one, my dad made a commitment that if his dream of starting a vineyard back in 1990 was to come true, it was going to positively affect everybody involved. And what that was alluding to is that he didn't want any part of migrant labor. He wanted to know the people who worked in the vineyard. He wanted to know their families, their children. He wanted to be able to sleep at night knowing that, his vineyard crew, their families had stability because they had a full-time job. They didn't have to move around for different crops. They were all immigrants. They weren't migrants. And luckily for all of us, my dad met Ruben, the godfather of my kids. And my dad asked Ruben, hey, can we employ you around? I want the same crew here year in and year out. And Ruben said, yes, no problem, knowing that it'd be a huge privilege to offer people a career, not just a week of work. And Ruben recruited the best, the brightest, and turned out to be an insanely loyal group of people to become the original La Cuadrilla, the crew. The name comes from the quadra. Ruben began giving a quadra, a block of vineyard, to the workers. It was their own. They owned it. They had to make every decision in their own block, which meant they had to pay attention to every methodology of how we were pruning, when we were pruning, were we shoot thinning, were we leafing, when and how were we training, were we adjusting the crop, leafing further, when and how we were harvesting. They had to make every decision as a farmer, not just as a worker. And we started making a wine from that block for the crew to start taking pride in their labor even more by enjoying the fruit of their labor. So La Cuadrilla was born for the crew to enjoy because none of the crew members grew up drinking wine. They grew up, with beer and tequila in Jalisco. And even before we started making the wine, the crew took so much pride in their career, farming their own block. It was a story they could tell their families. And when we began bottling this, it was a game changer that all of a sudden, it was something that was shared at the family table. Parties were thrown because we gave the crew members each a lot of wine. Storage became an issue, so everybody threw a big party, and word spread like wildfire. And we started keeping a portion of production to sell to our mailing list, and it became part of our identity that our customers came to know that we were stewards of our land and that we were equitable and took care of our people as well. So when I took over in '09, my commitment became that 10% of our production would be this red blend. And it's actually grown to be about 18% of our production because the commitment is we want to grow the profit sharing every year. So the idea is the entry level red blend of the vineyard. It speaks to each vintage, always Syrah, 50, 60% Syrah, good chunk of Sangiovese, Grenache, Mourvedre, representing what we have planted. And we break even on it. And then the profits turn into right now, average like $3.25 per hour bonus on every paycheck. Wow. And then we do a fiscal year end of November 1st. We add up the remaining profit and divide that by seniority and distribute that in the best party of the year under our 700-year-old oak tree, get the banda playing, but it's a really proud moment where I stand up and now my sons are up there, Jess, my wife, Ruben and Maria, of course, and one by one, I get to call up each member of the crew, from the most veteran to the rookies, and give out that bonus check. And I mean, I can't imagine running a vineyard any other way. I know everybody out there. I remember playing soccer and volleyball with the children of the crew, and now I get to watch my two young boys playing with the children of the crew. Now those kids that I played with are all professionals, electricians, nurses, you name it. And that's really cool in itself, that my dad's vision of giving workers stability, giving them a good job, really affected their children, that they were able to live, go to school, have stability, and take advantage of the opportunity that America should present to the second generation. And it's really amazing now that we're 35, 36 years in to actually, we have watched it come true, and then just to see the generational shift. I was that little kid, and now my kids are out playing with the children of the crew. It's just a beautiful place. I'll never forget, we had this British photographer out in the vineyard, and he had traveled the length of California from north to south, documenting harvest. And I walked up, upon him like he was on a hilltop, taking long shots with a big lens. Finally tracked him down. I'd known he was out there that night, and I just struck up a conversation, and he breathed out this long sigh, and he was, man, like, I just wish I could have photoed here at this vineyard the entire time. Wow. Not every vineyard is like this. No. The labor bus pulls up, and this is back in the day before mechanization. Now all those vineyards are mechanized, yeah. And it's a really special place. It's a beautiful place. Everybody's proud to be there. Everybody feels connected to it, and just the care that goes into each and every vine. I don't think you can do that without having an engaged crew that cares about what they're doing. And it's more fun that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's, to me, like, incredibly thoughtful as operators, clearly like progressive in the timing of this. It's honestly a little sad to see that it's not a growing part of the business model, but I think we're going to see a big there's going to be a lot of turbulence in our industry in the coming years. But rather than harping on that, I'd like to talk more about like your parents' foresight and the progressive vision they had. Like how did Stolpman Vineyards come to be in the first place?
Yeah, I love to tell the story that my dad moved to California when he was 17, started a valet car parking company, and had all these private clients in the Hollywood Hills. They were teenage boys running this company, and they were the only ones willing to work private parties in the Hollywood Hills. And a couple of these movie producers drank Bordeaux. And that's when my dad just like, okay, if you're going to be successful, you drink fine wine, and figured out also that if he ordered a bottle of wine at a restaurant out on a date, he wouldn't get carded. And that strategy worked on my mom. And on their honeymoon, they wound up in Napa, and my dad could already kind of wine talk and bullshit his way through a barrel tasting with a winemaker. And that's why he became a good lawyer. He was good at bullshit. And my dad and mom both became lawyers out of Long Beach, California. That's where I grew up, near there. And at that time, graduating college and graduating law school in like the early 70s, a lot of my mom's friends lived in Northern California and were getting into eating fresh and local. The wine scene was going through a renaissance. Both, Napa Valley was creating, in my mind, some of their best wines to this day. And there were a lot of great French wines arriving via Kermit Lynch in Berkeley. They were all going to Berkeley to buy wine. I think the Skurniks were getting their start out here in New York. Things were changing very quickly in American and Californian food and wine culture. And my parents and their friends were fully on board and cooking and drinking, every wine they could find. And that just progressed. And my dad, being my dad, just went down the rabbit hole. And back then, you could go to the Napa Valley Wine Auction and hang out and go to like hot tub keg parties at Frog Sleep. And it was not the private jet thing that it is today. And through that, actually, my dad met a lot of connections, Larry Turley and everybody, and just started researching and talking to people. And that's part of how he found, especially as he made his way down the Central Coast, that a lot of people back then were using migrant crews for pruning and for picking. And it was like, okay, noted, I don't want any part of that. But Josh Jensen at Calera had found limestone. He was really interested in following that story because he had already figured out that limestone was nobility in Europe for many, many regions, and he loved those wines. And now it was becoming more of a known entity in California and being sought out. Ridge Montebello was another love of his, also on limestone. So he began looking at properties on the western edge of Paso Robles where there are limestone pockets. He was aware, because he was looking at federal geological survey maps, that there was this big limestone outcropping in the northern end of what is today Ballard Canyon, but it was not for sale. It was part of this giant cattle ranch. And he had met this guy, Jeff, who had graduated from Davis with a master's and moved to Santa Barbara. And he was, really trying to push the quality of the, juvenile, or not juvenile, but like the infant Santa Barbara industry. And Jeff called my dad one day and said, "Oh my God, like that limestone in Ballard Canyon, they've carved it up and one of them's for sale." And my dad, that weekend, he took the family. I was up there with him and shook hands with the cattle rancher, and we were finally able to close on the ranch in 1990. So that's, believe it or not, that's the short story. But I was 8 in 1990, and then it just became hanging out with Ruben, barbecuing, eating tacos, again, playing soccer and volleyball with the crew's kids, and riding around on the ATV, and eating homemade ice cream at the end of the day at Clausen's and Los Olivos. There weren't any taste rooms in Los Olivos. A couple art galleries, one little casual mom and pop diner. Maddie's Tavern was there, and so there was one like dinner restaurant in the old Stagecoach stop. But yeah, I'm happy that I didn't grow up in in San Ynez Valley. I was able to have my teenagedom down with the anonymity of being in greater the LA area. But I'm really
even with parents that are lawyers, still better to have a little anonymity.
They always had that attitude. Leave them in jail a couple days. Let them figure it out.
That's awesome. We've talked here and there about Ruben and the Cuadrilla, but let's dive in. Tell me more about Ruben. He's an incredibly important part of the story of Stolpman Vineyards. Kind of walk us through Ruben's story.
Yeah. There's some people that just have a magic sparkle in their eye, and a smile. And I've never met anybody who doesn't like Ruben. And the day I do,
Gonna have a problem.
Yeah, I'm gonna get away from that person as quick as I can. Sure. He's just, I've never met anybody like him. Youngest out of 11 kids, grew up subsistent farmers in Jalisco. It was really interesting. The first time I went down there, Jess was, we were eating and drinking so much. Finally, one morning, just like, we need to go on a hike. We need to get exercise. We need to do something other than eat and drink. And Ruben, Jose, the oldest brother, had kind of taken control of the trip. And Ruben came back and said, "Okay, Jose said we're going to drive 45 minutes and we're going to hike to this beautiful peak where we're going to see the whole valley." And Jess is just like, "No, we don't need an hour and a half round. Look, there's a beautiful mountain right here. Let's just go on a hike." So Ruben goes, talks to the older brothers, comes back. "Okay, we're gonna drive 10 minutes to our cousin Juan's." and then we're gonna go on a different hike. And we get up to the top of the mountain, and casually Ruben's just like, oh yeah, so this is where my grandfather was shot to death in a gunfight. People had stolen cows, and he chased them up here. They were trying to get over the ridge, and it came to a head, and he was shot and killed. And that day is when my father, his son, decided that all of his kids were going to finish high school and have the potential to get out of this hard life. And there too, Jose, the oldest brother, became the village school teacher, taught all his brothers and sisters in that little schoolhouse in the ranchito. And so Enrique, brother number 5, and Marcos, brother number 7, happened to go to Santa Barbara and get jobs in vineyards. And Ruben, being the cherished little king, number 11 out of 11. Of course, Jose made darn sure that he learned good English and did well in school. And then Ruben decided to follow Enrique and Marcos to Santa Barbara, and he met Jeff, and Marcos was already working with Jeff. And my dad was able to sponsor Ruben and get him a green card. And Ruben, so on paper, became our vineyard manager in 1994. Unfortunately, you can't do that for people today. There's no route to sponsor someone here, even if they're the most special person in the world. So yeah, Ruben and his wife Maria, they're both full citizens today. A little on the inside, it's never something I've talked about, but enough time has gone by. I think it's okay. I think everybody would laugh about it. But, one of our key grape customers in the 1990s was Manfred Krankel of Sinequinon.
Yep.
And Robert Parker, when the only way you knew where our grapes had gone in the different Sinequinon cuvées was by reading Wine Advocate. Manfred Krankel would only tell Robert Parker, okay, this is 40% Stolpman, 30% Benecido, rah, rah. And Manfred had done insanely well. I mean, the wines were, today they're the only true cult wine of Santa Barbara County. And so Manfred had begun to purchase land and plant vineyards, and Manfred Krankel went to Ruben and said, hey, I'm buying these parcels. I want you to be my vineyard manager and develop them with me and farm them. You're the most talented guy I've ever met. And Ruben turned around and told Jeff, and Jeff is a genius guy. And without blinking, when Ruben told, this Manfred Krankel asked me to go work for him, Jeff just said, Ruben, I've been thinking, you should be my full partner. And we should be partners in our vineyard management company. So yeah. I think the year was 2002, and Ruben became a full partner with Jeff Newton. Jeff's a smart guy. I mean, Manfred, I know Nick Krankel better, his son, who has a label called Fingers Crossed, and Nick is buying fruit from Stolpman, and Jim Binns, the longtime Sinequinon winemaker, is buying fruit from us. We still sell like 5 to 8% of our grapes from this one hilltop block, and they're all kind of the cult guys now. Dragonette and a couple other producers, Drake Whitcraft. There was never, I don't think, too hard of feelings, but it is really interesting, that little side saga of how Ruben became the key partner in the premier vineyard management company in Santa Barbara County. But that's how it happened, and that was a long time ago, over 2 decades ago. And so not only is Ruben key in farming our vineyard and just coming up with ideas and having the balls to cut irrigation and to own root. I mean, that all happened 10 years before I took over. To go over to France and start our pre-clonal program, which is, to me, like the future of what Stolpman will be. And of course, his wife, Maria Guadalupe, she is in charge of the crew, 8 to 10, 12 hours a day, while Ruben is managing the empire. And it doesn't hurt that, Maria is the second youngest out of 10. Ruben's the youngest out of 11. We have this huge family empire throughout Santa Barbara County, viticulture. And we have the new generation, the nephews, the nieces, the kids coming up now that are going to take over. So hopefully we have generational security through the Solorzano and Bonrostro and all the different Briseño families. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and it's really helped Stolpman in when we've had these amazing strokes of luck, like Love You bunches that I've been able to plant more Sangiovese. I've been able to lock in great Grenache, amazing Happy Canyon Sauvignon Blanc from Huve, and where we find opportunity, not just Ballard Canyon, but I love the whole eastern half of Santa Barbara County wine country, Los Alamos, Ballard Canyon, Solvang area, Los Olivos district, Happy Canyon. It's very easy to be organic. We don't have high fungal pressure. We have the wind every day, low humidity. It's just a beautiful place to grow wine grapes. Again, probably too extreme for Pinot Noir, but that's cool. There's plenty of great Pinot Noir to our west. But Ruben and I have really found our home in that greater region. And on the entry level, I mean, the wines have never been better, and the farming's never been better. So, without a doubt, Ruben is the most important part of our company, and proudly the godfather of both my kids. And he's only 12 years older than me, and we're both partaking in clean, healthy living. So hopefully we both have another 30, 40, 50 good years. But Omar is a teenager now, and my kids are loving the biz. So hopefully, again, we have generational security, because we don't really have exit plans. We don't think about that.
I mean, I am told that agave is healthy part of a balanced diet, which I know you two are actively checking in on. And thank you for walking us through that, because I think investing in your people is so important, and often
I think
it's easy to overlook, and it shouldn't be understated, the impacts that he's had, and that comes from your dad and your mom first and foremost. So I think it's one of the things I love to champion about Stolpman.
I left out a really fun anecdote that I don't really talk about or think about that much. But my dad finished Ruben and Lupe's house in 2006 and didn't finish its own home on the vineyard until 2013. So my dad's dream had always been to, retire on the vineyard, but he put Ruben, 7-8 years in front of his own home. That is how important Amazing. Ruben is. And as Ruben and my dad had talked about, feeling the feels of the vine and feeling the diurnal shift and the wind. And so it's so important for my dad to have Ruben and Lupe actually live. And I'll never forget when Omar was a baby, like any newborn baby, staying up all night screaming. Ruben told me, it's it's really, I'm glad Omar was born here, because he screams louder than the vines. It had been a really dry year. And he said, if it wasn't for Omar crying, he could hear the vine screaming at him for water, but he was distracted by the newborn baby. I'm like, wow, that's intense, man. That is. So Ruben now, he has a party house, because, again, having combined 19 siblings, when you throw a party, it's, before you blink, you have 150 people there. But when he bought this other house with a, room to build a big entertaining area, I'm like, no, wait, you're moving, Ruben? No, I'm never moving. I need to live with the vines. I just need a place to throw my parties so my house doesn't get trashed. But yeah, now that's the party. The party house is kind of becoming legendary. Pool volleyball tournaments are a big passion of both Ruben and mine. That we share that along with agave.
Seeing you in, you're all of a sudden Ben Stiller in Meet the Parents at the fucking volleyball tournament. Wow, that was a lot of really good stuff. I'm curious, there's so much to unpack with Stolpman. Like, to me, there's a wine for everyone. There's many different grape varieties, different styles of wine. You reach different price points. Do you think there's any misconceptions about Stolpman? What do we need to take away outside of the incredible farming and, that the stewardship is not just to the land, but also to the people? To me, that's so many important things we've already touched on, but like, are there any misconceptions out there? Are there any stories that maybe I don't know that need to be told?
Well, I think I must be sheltered from all the misconceptions. Everybody's well aware that I'm a fragile redhead, and have to have a buffer, my little echo chamber. No, I hope there are not any misconceptions. To me, I think the most important thing we've done is we've established a soul to everything that we do and a why behind each of our cuvées, and even like a cute bottle like Love You Bunches. Like, that's the story of hand harvesting, of being loving with each bunch. Cuadrilla, we commit retail suicide every year, changing the label because we want to keep that connection. We want to remind everybody who has a glass of this wine what it's about. It's about the people that we're supporting, about the quality of our farming. So yeah, I hope the only misconception that I get is like, oh, Santa Barbara County, Southern California, it's so warm down there. I'm like, no, we're in this cold wind tunnel, and I get so much like, oh, Ballard Canyon on the east side, but that's something I take pride in. That we get a higher peak heat, but we get a much lower nighttime temperature to retain acidity, and arguably we're even windier up in the elevations of the hills. So yeah, we're cool climate in my mind, and just we get the concentration from dry farming, where we can get these yummy wines with. If you think about my perfect wine, can be made in Ballard Canyon, because my perfect wine, it's rich, it's delicious, it's giving and generous, but it is alive and has freshness and has verve, and it's like titillating and secondary, and all of that I think we've proven to the world we can make. And it's all about dry farming these tiny concentrated grapes, taking the most gentle touch in our winemaking, nailing the picks and bottling relatively fresh. And I think any good taster, like I said, I don't want to know the misconceptions if they're out there. It's probably my fault. I probably offended somebody.
I have a vision of what that perfect wine is, but I'm curious. Is it red or white?
They're both. I love white wine. And I love the rainbow of spectrum that we're making today. Andre, our Mexico City importer, coined Stolpman as natural, not natty. I take so much pride in making Sauvignon Blanc that's nuanced and crisp, to then richer white blends, to like steering, coating Sauvignon, to cognac-esque Chenin Blanc, all the way to golden Lavion, then to orange, then to this like unicorn, not rosé, not red, Von Gris, then to the whole chilled red category, of which we like at any given time are making 5, 6, 7 chilled reds, and then into the world of red. And I think you can hit that vision of delicious yet fresh and lively, and all along that spectrum, that is just in a different form, different color.
Walk us through what's in the ground today.
Right. So 176 acres planted, 90 of them are Syrah, a little more than 90, actually 92. So well over half the vineyard is Syrah. Vine count, we're like 3/4 Syrah, because so much of the new plantings of Syrah are 6,000 vine per acre. So no mechanization at all throughout the vineyard. And then when we go back to the old vines, we still have 1992 Syrah, 93 Syrah, 94 Sangiovese. It's actually super healthy. I'm the most confident in the 93 Syrah, 94 Sangiovese as far as like living another 25 years, another 25 after that. And then, yeah, we still have some stuff through the 90s, mainly Syrah and Grenache. And then, yeah, 10 acres of Sauvignon Blanc. I didn't actually mention the acreage count on Sangiovese. It's 21 acres, 10 acres of Grenache. Then we today we have 15 different varietals. So Chenin Blanc, Viognier, Sauvignon, Trousseau, Gamay. Did I mention Rousson? 19 acres of Rousson. Mourvedre, it's like 5.5, 6 acres. Petite Syrah, 15 different varietals. So probably covered 13 or 14. Mondouse.
Sauvignon Blanc?
I mentioned Sauvignon Blanc, I think, 10 acres. Yeah. Run through. Who cares? Very, very geeky, very boring.
I mean, I remember you quizzed me on this at the wine.
I think you got 14 of them.
I got 14.
Yeah.
So, and I think it was Petite Syrah. Had never.
Well,
That's a proud moment.
And we don't distribute the Petite Syrah.
There we go.
And the Petite Syrah, for the record, is co-fermented with Rousson and is 14% alcohol.
I mean, it's a testament to the site that your parents identified. You know, it's a really like a Goldilocks zone for so many varieties. I say all the time that like there is a wine for everyone in the Stolpman lineup. You know what I mean? Like it just covers such a wide range of tastes, styles, price points that these should be, there's age-worthy wines in the lineup, but there's everyday drinkers as well. And knowing that also you all are taking care of your people and it's not just that you're second generation, but there's second generation farmers in the fold and sounds like soon to be third generation. Like that's relatively unheard of in American wine world. So,
and now that you state that, like, I mean, now it's becoming obvious. I think the misconception would be, well, Stolpman's trying to do so much. How can they do all of it well? Which makes sense to me. That would, as you said that, I'm like, oh, well, that would be the misconception. But then when you think about that, we have 37 full-time vineyard workers. We have Ruben and Lupe. And I don't throw enough credit to my winemaking team, Kyle, Matt, and Tim, that we have 3 extraordinarily talented guys in the cellar with the same vision that I have. When we taste a great wine together, there are no words that are exchanged. We all make eye contact. Like this is something that we would be proud to make. So it's an investment in people. In my mind, everybody who works for me today will be working with me in 20 years, and it's heartbreaking when that doesn't happen, but that is life. But yeah, we are trying to do a lot, but I think in my 40s, mid 40s now, I'm much more realistic and really, dead set on like, unless I find something compelling and delicious, we're gonna wean it, we're gonna call it, and focus on what we can continue to kind of make even more compelling. So,
yeah, cheers, Pete. So happy to have you here.